Thank you, Louisa. So a very good afternoon, everyone. Now, it is my great pleasure and honor to kick off the GenZero Climate Summit and to welcome everybody to join us today at the Tech Forum. Now, it's a rare opportunity for us to gather portfolio companies, other investors, and players in the carbon market to discuss how we can collectively drive technology forward to achieve net zero. Having also only joined the GenZero team in January, I'm personally very glad to have the opportunity to meet all of you in person as well. Now, at today's Tech Forum, we would like to discuss the power and potential of technology to avoid and reduce operational emissions and to capture emissions across diverse, hard-to-abate sectors. Now, in the IEA's net zero scenario, they believe that half of the GHG emissions, the reductions for the energy sector, will come from technology in early innovation stages, like CCUS and direct air capture. However, all of us here today know that such technologies are nowhere near the cost levels that they need to be commercially viable. We also know that such technologies will become cheaper as the technology matures, as economies of scale are reached, and experience accumulates. So it is critical that we channel financing to the right companies on the right pathways, enable these technologies to commercialize, and to contribute at the scale required for the world to reach net zero in 2050. So for double bottom line investors like GenZero, who care about the decarbonization impact achieved by our capital, how should we allocate capital to achieve the greatest climate impact while delivering risk-appropriate returns? Now, our first panel will discuss the multiple technological pathways from direct air capture to biochar and ocean alkalinity enhancement, and share their views on the techno-economics of these solutions. They will share more about how investors can think about the technical feasibility at scale, resource intensity, eventual cost and environmental impact, as well as the commercial viability of each of these solutions. We are confident that the insights will sharpen our perspectives in evaluating the right technologies and underlying business models to invest in. Now, we also need to consider how climate tech companies can secure the financing required to scale up, despite much heavier capital intensity than their startups and competing startups in, say, the software or payment space. Now, this is especially because the technologies will frequently deliver a product that is much more expensive than a non-decarbonized product. So we believe that carbon markets will be critical in offsetting the green premium. But we also know that technology-based CDR credits, like their nature-based counterparts, are highly complex. So our second panel will discuss the issues of permanence, co-benefits, and operational risk that may impact the credibility of tech-based credits. With diverse perspectives on the panel, ranging from that of a standard setter to that of a demand aggregator, we trust that companies looking to scale revenues from carbon removal will derive valuable insights on how to comply with standards and also meet buyer demands of integrity. Finally, as investors, how do we overcome the conundrum of having to accept high risk and long investment horizons all at the same time? Now, we can only do this if we see sufficient signs of de-risking from clear and specific decarbonization commitments by regulators and industries. So our third and fourth panels on sustainable aviation fuel in Asia and the future of marine fuels will discuss how clear demand signals and collaboration across the ecosystem can drive decarbonization in hard-to-abate sectors. So I personally believe that the sharing by regulators and industry groups on the decision parameters that they use in determining the choice of new technologies and setting the pace of change will provide useful learning for all of those amongst us who are trialing new technologies for adoption. Now, bringing it back to where we sit today, so the Marina Bay Sands in Singapore. So you might have realized, for those of you from overseas, that it is really warm in Singapore. You would also have realized that we Singaporeans like to overcompensate with a lot of air conditioning because we somehow think you might forget you're in the tropics. Now, this is clearly extremely energy intensive and made worse by the fact that we now have to cool buildings that are getting progressively warmer. So how can Singapore get to net zero, bearing in mind also that we do not have much in the way of renewable energy? Well, for one, we continue to plant more trees. So today, there are more than 7.5 million trees in Singapore, a lot more trees than people, right? And we want to get to more than 8 million pretty soon. And thereafter, I don't think we will have much more space for more trees. So technology is therefore integral to Singapore's decarbonization mission. So you may not know this as well, but you are sitting on top of the world's largest underground district cooling network, which serves about 28 buildings in the area and reduces carbon emissions by close to 20,000 tons a year. So such efforts to reduce our consumption are important, but even then, not enough. So Singapore will also need affordable low-carbon hydrogen and CCUS, as well as green electricity imports. Now, even with all of that, right, we will still have residual emissions that require developed international carbon markets for Singapore to get to net zero. So if you extrapolate from Singapore to the rest of the world, or even if you think of Singapore as a very large corporate looking to decarbonize, then it becomes clear that innovation in technology, carbon markets, and regulation must come together for us to get to net zero. And that's why with us today at the GenZero Tech Forum and the Climate Summit are a diverse mix of technology companies, key players in the carbon markets, national bodies, and regulators. We hope you use the time we have to participate actively in the pros and cons of the various technological pathways, but more importantly, that you also forge valuable connections across the ecosystem. So I wish you all a fruitful day and week ahead at the GenZero Climate Summit. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.